Hello everyone, my name is Lucy and welcome to Books and Brushes. So, haven't filmed in a while, hey. So I'm filming this right at the end of March. Wow, I've caught up. It's a miracle. Technical difficulties I think have been sorted, but fingers crossed. Anyway, so we're all in lockdown and quarantine now because the world's gone completely apocalyptically insane, which is kind of crazy, and everything's strange, but it's time for the book nerds and introverts of the world to be like, yeah, we've practiced our whole lives for this, and if I get trapped here for years, I've got plenty of places to go. I'm just trying to make light of the situation, just trying to keep a smile on my face because there's so much doom and gloom going on. I just kind of want to separate myself as much as I can because I don't need any more reasons to be depressed and insane. So let's just talk about the books I read in March and enjoy the thing we love, which is our books. So the first book I read in March took me a very long time, the majority of March, because I went through a little bit of a slumpy February-March period. But that is The Handmaid's Tale by Margret Atwood. I've been meaning to read this book for years. I've always wanted to read it, especially since after I read Delirium, a favourite trilogy of mine, and it was like, was it blurbed by her? Was it compared to the... I don't remember. But this Margret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale has been a curiosity to me for a long time, so I finally got around to it. So The Handmaid's Tale is about a world in future America, I believe, where women have like reverted back to having no rights, and the handmaids are the women who are basically like maids of the household. They want to procreate with them, like the commander, the man of the household, will, you know, do his thing just to get a baby. And it's frightening and down with women and scary, and like you should have no opinions, and if you say the wrong thing, people are watching you. And yes, we love this regime. We love having no rights. Yeah, that's the worst summary of this plot I think anyone's ever given, but my brain is not functioning, so that's what you're getting. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, although I did think it was kind of slow. There was a lot of setup and world building. The thing that really got me was the jagged timeline. Like, it was a bit jerky of a read. It wasn't smooth sailing, and the narrator was almost unreliable. I kind of liked that at the end. It's one of those books where in retrospect you enjoyed a lot of the angles and a lot of the ideas more than you did while you were actually reading it. I think I said a very similar thing about Orphan Monster Spy. I don't know if I said the exact same thing, I can't remember. This is very similar to that if I did say it. I really enjoyed the world building. I thought it was very believable and convincing. I really enjoyed the plot, and like I said, that whole bit at the end with the unreliable narrator, and it almost was like a cliffhanger I was annoyed about, but then they kind of like justified it, and I was like, okay, I see what you're doing there. I see you've left it mysterious on purpose. And I kind of liked that, even though I kind of hated it at the same time. Am I making sense to anyone? I mean, have you read this book? Let me know in the comments if you've read this book and you know what I'm talking about. And if not, just know that the end kind of didn't wrap things up and then said, yep, we haven't wrapped it up. It's because of this. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. I can see how this is like a dystopian classic and how this idea has sparked so many other ideas in literature and fiction. I can see where Vox came from, the book I read last year that was very Handmaid's Tale-esque, or kind of, you know, another spin on this story. It was like reading a remake and then reading an original in a way. I found this month in March, I struggled to focus mentally. I've not been doing so hot, and my brain wouldn't read the words and take them in, and I would read one page and just not see a single word. I hate that because I don't get in reading slumps very often, and that frustrates me. But I did get over it. I'm over it now. But yeah, it did take a while to read. I almost feel like I should reread this book so I can take it in again. I think I might get more out of it on the second read through and kind of understand what's going on a bit more and know that it's going somewhere. It felt a little bit aimless, but I really did enjoy the story and the ideas, and I'm just glad I managed to get to it because it's always good to read classics and kind of, well, I wouldn't say, is this a classic? I don't know. I don't know what constitutes a classic in people's eyes, but it's a classic to me, and I'm pleased I got around to it. Will I read The Testaments, the second book? I don't know. A lot of people say it's faster. I am interested to see the TV show and see what they did with this, because I've always wanted to see that show, but I wanted to read this first. So now I've read this, I can watch that TV show and see where they went with it, and I'm intrigued because I think it would develop very well into a TV show. That was the first book I read in March, and the second book I read in March I read in about 5 days, I think. So I spent all of March reading The Handmaid's Tale and then read this lickety-split. This is a book I've been dying to get to, and I finally did it. I finally read Dry by Neal and Jarrod Shusterman. More Shusterman, new Shusterman in my life. It makes me so happy. I was planning to pick up this book as my next read after The Handmaid's Tale, and then Corona hit the world and I read this book and I was like, this is too relatable. At the very beginning of this story, there's this scene where she goes to the supermarket and people are clawing for like the water crates, and she's happened to be sly and creative about how she gets the water, and it's far too similar to the state of our supermarkets during this coronavirus and stockpiling, and I hate stockpilers. It's a pet peeve of mine. No. Anyway, not gonna get into that. A lot of people were saying like this book was very reminiscent, you know, when fiction imitates life, but life gets too real. And I thought that was really unfortunate that I decided to pick up this book, or I was already going to pick up this book, and then it was very relatable to the current climate we live in. Obviously, we don't have a drought. I should tell you what this book is about, shouldn't I? Yeah, I should do that. So this book is set in California, Southern California to be exact, where the state of things like global warming has caused a big drought in California. So they're trying to cut back on water usage and wasting water. And then one day the tap out happens, which means all the taps run dry and there is no water. And it becomes like this horrible suburbia wasteland because people will do anything for water. They become into water zombies, as the book puts them, and it's this survival story about these few teens who are just trying to make it, where everyone's dying of thirst and people are doing insanely crazy and desperate things just for a drop of water. It's very the breakdown of society kind of thing. So I absolutely loved this book. I mean, it's a Shusterman book. Are you surprised? Not in any way. I was really curious to see how Jarrod Shusterman would come into the mix. I have absolutely no idea where Neal Shusterman began and Jarrod Shusterman was entered. Like, it was very seamless. It's obviously a co-written book, but I couldn't tell where, you know, one ended and one began. I don't know if they took different characters, because there is different characters' point of view throughout the book, which Neal Shusterman does it in a lot of his books anyway. In fact, I think all of his books have different character POVs throughout the whole story. This one was no different, so maybe they like split up different characters. I don't know. I'm not sure how the co-writing process was for them, but it was seamlessly written and you couldn't tell that there were two, you know, conflicting voices. I absolutely loved the characters. There's some really interesting, brilliant dynamics in this group. It was, because it's like this survival story, it's like this ragtag group of people who don't really want to rely on each other, don't trust each other, but kind of need to get where they're going and to get what they want. And it's kind of them against the world. They're forging their own way, and there's a lot of like survivalism, a lot of like themes of communism and sharing, and like we're all gonna go down with this ship, and people being desperate, and how, you know, the government is dealing with this situation and how a lot of people are being crowded to their death without knowing. Yeah, it's quite dark. There's a lot of darkness, but I love that in a book. I love dark themes and sinister ideas. And it is, when you're reading this book, you do get a sense of the sinister and the desperation, you know, knowing that a lot of people are going to die of thirst, which is such a horrible way to die. You know, doesn't sound very fun. I love the characters, as I always do in a Shusterman book. I love the plot. This book had me gripped from the beginning to the very, very end. The plot was so interesting, the way it weaved through different characters in different places. So many things don't go well for them. And it was frustrating in a good way, because I'm like, come on, something needs to go right for you guys. Yeah, there was a few moments where I was like, oh no, I know what's about to, oh no, and then something bad happens and I was like, I know, oh no, I saw it coming, but and it was so well done. Like, the real punchlines of this book hit so hard. Brady. not going to say anything more, but such a good read. Do I recommend you read it during the coronavirus? It depends. Do you enjoy fiction that is scarily similar to real life? Maybe this wasn't the best time for me to pick up and read this book, but I don't even care. I was not going to hold off reading this book because of the stupid coronavirus. Like, you're not taking that away from me. You're not doing that. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It's a great read. Even if you don't want to read it in the current climate, I do recommend you getting to it. There's so many lessons from this, and especially in the climate of the world today. There were so many poignant moments where I thought, wow, Neal Shusterman wrote this, and Jarrod Shusterman wrote this before all this happened, and yet there's so many themes and ideas and morals that kind of ring true from the book, which was really nice to kind of read and think, and to feel kind of connected to the characters in that way. I love Neal Shusterman and Jarrod Shusterman. I don't know what you did in this book because it's impossible to tell, but well done. Great job. Absolutely love this story. I love that it's a standalone. It's a simple one and done, beautifully arced book, and I really enjoyed it and loved the heck out of it. This book was so emotional and real and true, and had so many good themes and characters and ideas, and that's not surprising to anyone because it's a Neal Shusterman book and he's basically a genius. And those are the two books I read in March. Again, not the biggest of reading months, and I'm sorry that the descriptions were a little bit haphazard. I feel like my brain's deteriorating today. And every day. Here are the two books I read in March. Really enjoyed them. The covers are very red. Let me know down in the comments below what you read in March, and if there are any books that are scarily similar to the climate we're living in, I'd be really interested to know if there are any books you're avoiding for that reason. Or in the opposite direction, are you reading happier, lighter books just to kind of distract you? Let me know in the comments down below because I'd really love to know. And if you've read either of these books, please let me know. I'd love to discuss them with you. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe. I know I haven't been putting out videos as regularly as I was, but I've got things up together now, so I hopefully should be back rolling out as I was before. I hope you're all staying home and staying safe in this time, and if you're going out and working, I salute you. I mean, it goes without saying that, you know, the NHS and healthcare workers deserve praise even before this happened, so it's not like they only deserve it now, but even more so. And people like who work in supermarkets, and if you're laid off, if you worked in, you know, hospitality, my heart goes out to you guys. I just feel like in a time like this, we all need to stick together and we all need to try and keep upbeat, and I enjoy staying inside. So for me this isn't difficult, but I know for a lot of other people it is difficult. So maybe if you weren't a reader before, or if you've been slumping, try and get back into reading. Try and do productive things. Learn to bake, learn to draw, play an instrument, write a book. You know, there's so much you can do from within your own house, and so many worlds you can visit without stepping outside your front door. Here's to the book nerds of the world. We got this, and I will see you all in my next video.